तद्गणेशाय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तिः प्रचोदयाते। ॐ तत्परम्पराय विद्महे ज्ञानलिङ्गेश्वराय धीमहि तन्नो गुरुः प्रचोदयाते। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। So, continuing from our last week's lesson, as we were discussing on the concept of the Iswara, the divine or the higher, the supreme reality, and then we, looked into contemplating on understanding this beautiful dynamic balance between the masculine and the feminine quality. And I think, like for me, definitely for my experience so far, the Sanatan Dharma or this Hindu ways to connect with the divine really is one of the most comprehensive and balanced, or have this path of equanimity between all different qualities of the energy or the gods and goddesses compared to all other religions or the faith system. Now, if we move further to continue into the next steps, deep into this principle in the concept of the gods and goddesses. So we started to understand the principle of the Brahman, the absolute creative principle of the divine. From the Brahman, we come down to the Iswara, which is the highest form of the divine in the manifest reality. And the Iswara has the three principles: the Brahma, the creator, then the Vishnu, the sustainer, and then we have the Shiva, the dissolver, or sort of think of the conception, life, and the death, the three principles. And from there we come down, and all the three principles of the Shiva has the Shakti, the feminine quality with it. Vishnu have the Lakshmi, the feminine quality with it. And then the Brahma has the Saraswati as the feminine quality. So think of the beautiful balance of the masculine and the feminine qualities of the divine, the god and the goddesses. From the Iswara, we come to the Paramatman. So it's the Param Atman. So the Param is the absolute or the highest form of the Atman. So here we are talking about the individual self. So the divine that dwells within each one of us. And in that divinity, I hope we all can see that if the divine exists in our heart, then the divine exists in Joanna's heart, in Shirley's heart, in Jonathan's heart, regardless of we are a man or a woman. Okay, so in that way, again, it has a perfectly beautiful balance of the divine principle, the Atman and the Paramatman, into the masculine and the feminine quality. Now, coming down from the Brahman, the absolute, into the Iswara, and then into the male and the female aspects of the quality, into our spirit, into our life itself. From there, we come further down into what we call the Devas and the Devis. So I think if I was to use the English terminology here for understanding these qualities, the Devas can be understood as the gods and the Devis can be understood as the goddesses. So the male aspects of the gods and the female aspect of the goddesses. So here you will look into, like we have the Ganesh, probably is the one of the most popular one you all would have heard about. Hanuman is another one. So so these are the Kartikeya. So there are many gods and many goddesses. Now, I really love this metaphorically in the Sanatan Dharma. It says there are 84 million aspects of gods and goddesses, which translates as each yoni that exists in our manifestation of the life itself is a divine principle. So, like ant has its own divine quality. A mouse has its own divine quality. Lion has its own divine quality. A tiger has its own divine quality. Elephant has its own quality. So each of the life from in what we know, modern terminology, we call some lives are very low into consciousness, others are intermediate, and then some are higher in that way. But in the Sanatan Dharma, each of the life really possesses its own divine quality. And I think I like to think of this principle of the gods and goddesses in every form of life as, if you look at our life as a principle of the divinity in our food cycle, in our ecosystem. So in the ecosystem, there is fungus changes into the plants, into the grass, into the bushes. It goes, the plant has its own vegetation, isn't it? A cycle of life from the very little fungus to the largest of the trees. The animals also follow the same cycle from the tiniest species like the microbes to the little bacteria, the fungus, and it goes all the way to the largest of animals like whales, and probably somewhere in that food cycle we also exist. So each of that life plays a perfect role in the dynamic evolution of our universe or the life process itself. And if you take one species out of that system, it does create a chaos in our ecosystem. And I think probably some of you have already heard, there is really, if you Google search, there are some theories now they're talking about how the desert expanded in the African continent since the foreign invaders came to the country. And they're talking about the European, English, American, because what they did, they to fulfill their ego, they were hunting the tigers and the lions. So when the number of the tigers and lions got less and less, the population of the deer, zebra, and all of that expanded, and then they were eating the forest further deeper, which was expanding the desert. So every life does have a purpose in that universal, in our evolutionary dynamic. So from these aspects of the gods and goddesses which we worship in our temple system, in our day-to-day life system as a quality to connect or to in tune or attune with the divinity or the principle of the divine. But in the principle of the devas and the devis, the gods and goddesses, every life that exists is also understood to be the manifest of the divine. Now, the devas and the devis, we believe that they actually exist in our human plane of consciousness. So they can incarnate, they can manifest, they can appear in your life at different times when you need them. So the qualities of the devas and devis, they can also manifest within each one of us. So think of them as a quality like the Ganesh. The quality of the Ganesh is to remove the obstacles to move forward. Quality of Kartikeya is the quality of the virya, the vitality, the strength, the brave, the courage, the heroic energy. Quality of the Sakti, like we have the Kali and all these goddesses, is to destroy the demonic energy, the darkness or that dullness. So each of these gods and goddesses, they have their own quality to sustain, to protect, or to move the life, the evolution forward. And if we look into our life, I'm not sure, but I think at some point we will definitely have few lessons on looking at our birth and the yantric astrology, where you will be able to look at, calculate to see which quality you have been born with. And yeah, I think I need to prepare a few lessons before we go into it, but I promise we will look into that at some point to look at, your the day you were born has a purpose. It has a divine manifestation, has a quality that you're supposed to be in tuned or attuned with to live or to fulfill your own wholesome potential. So there will be the quality, and the easiest one to really look at is if you assess your personality traits. Now, I'm not talking about the personality traits that we have acquired out of our trauma or our ego, our life expectations, okay? Because that is not our original being. But I know some people have become so angry and then they call themselves, I'm living Goddess Durga. I know some people have become so aggressive and they say, I'm living the quality of Shiva. So I'm not talking about that quality. I'm talking about your birth quality. Probably your parents will be the one to give you some of your traits when you were born at that point. Or of course, we look at our birth path and all of that to look into those qualities. So these qualities of the gods and goddesses, we can invoke them, we can manifest them within us. And this is where, the ones who have followed yoga in the ashram system with me in Portugal or India or also in Wales, think hopefully some of you remember the 7 Gayatri mantras we recite every day at part of the ashram life. So the very first is the Ganesh. So here we're talking about the Deva or the Devi. So the Ganesh is the male aspect of the divine, the god. He helps us to move forward, break through the inertia to give us a kick start, but also keep our feet connected to the earth, connected to the ground. So we have the Gayatri for Ganesh. So this is really quite a beautiful Gayatri. Just to let me chant, so some of you may remember it. ॐ तद्गणेशाय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तः प्रचोदयाते ॐ. So in the Gayatri mantra, we are invoking that quality of the Ganesh that helps me to move forward. So the first one is Tat Ganeshaya Vidmahe. So the Vidmahe is to invoke or to evoke. So you are invoking or evoking that quality of the Ganesh that helps you to move forward. Dhimahi, which is I meditate in it, or I allow myself to surrender or dissolve into that quality. And then at the end of the mantra, we are Prachodayate. So Prachodayate is I let it manifest. So it's a very metaphorically, when you think of, yes, there is a Ganesh, there is a beautiful aspect of the Ganesh in his statue, all the qualities. But ultimately, the quality of the Ganesh is going to manifest within you to give you that kick start. So activating that energy, that motion, the momentum. So we have those 7 Gayatri mantras we recite. So the first one is for the Ganesh, removing of the obstacles. Second one is for the Kartikeya. I think I will share the recordings with you all to listen and learn some of these Gayatri mantras if you wish to. So the Kartikeya is the strength, the virya or the vigor, the vitality, the life force that we need to evolve in our life. Then we have the 3 goddesses to follow that. So the Durga, which is the goddess to remove the darkness or the demon or the negative energy. Lakshmi, again, another form of the goddess to bring the quality of wealth, prosperity, and health in our life. We move into Saraswati, the quality of the knowledge, the wisdom, and the transformation, art or the creativity. We move into the quality of the Lord Shiva, which is the transcending quality of the Shiva into the higher self or the greater self. And then we have the Guru, which is the manifest quality in all forms, which gives us access to these transcendental teachings or the wisdom or the experience that we allow ourselves to move forward with or may move forth with. So again, the gods and goddesses, you may experience it through these qualities. You may also experience it through your guru or other aspects of the life in day-to-day life. So we have from the absolute, we have come down to the gods and goddesses. Then we have the next quality is what we call the spirits. Now, the spirits tradition in the Sanskrit, we call them the Siddhas. So Siddhas, Siddha. So Siddha is those masters of wisdom, like these awakened gurus or enlightened people, these spirits, they are to believe that when they leave the body, they don't move into the next life. So they stay into our astral plane, into our wisdom or akashic plane. And whenever we need their guidance, whenever we need their wisdom, then those qualities, those gurus can manifest. Sometimes they can manifest in your dream. Sometimes they can appear in some form of a life, a man or a woman or an animal. You would be surprised at how many times a quality, a wisdom, a light, a guidance can manifest in your life. And then you're like, oh, where does it come from? So these spirits, I think in the Western world, we call them the angelic spirits, or, of course, there are the demonic spirits too, but we're not going to go into the negative quality. So in many of the stories and even my personal experience, I believe so many of these rishis, like the Kapila Muni, Maharishi Patanjali, and Vasistha, their spirits are in the astral plane. And the deeper you go into your sadhana, whenever you're ready, you will be surprised to find out, where do we get access to this knowledge? Where do we get access to this wisdom, or the transformation that happens to us? Even though I also believe that to have access to these transcendental gurus or the qualities of the wisdom, it's definitely not in the field of ego. It's not in field of the mind. It's not in field of the worldly knowledge or intelligence. I feel these are actually the obstacles. So it's like it's not something we can experience and experience through the ego, through the power, through that pride. It comes from the service, it comes from the surrendering, it comes from dissolving or transcending all of that. So that brings us to this astral plane of the consciousness or the wisdom. And this is where, when I read so many of these gurus and their life stories, they say they have accessed or they have blessing of these astral gurus who show us the path. Like, I think if any one of you have read the book Autobiography of the Yogi, the Paramahansa Yogananda, probably, that's the one book he talks about quite a lot of different stories of his experience through these astral people or these astral gurus. I tend to get like many lessons when I'm in a deep sleep or in a deep meditation. It's difficult, I think, for me to actually distinguish if it's like my own access or I'm accessing my subconscious, unconscious mind, because that's where also you have all the Akashic recordings are actually deeply rooted in your own plane of existence. Like the whole memory of the universe is stored in every particle that exists. Or it is like an astral plane of the gurus or these rishis. But anyway, so all these rishis also believe to be in the spiritual or in the dimensional field, and there are certain days every year in the Sanatan Dharma, like the Purnima, the full moon night every month in the moon cycle is dedicated to invoke or to awake or to connect with these guru spirits, the astral spirits. So I think if we can really call them as like this, the semi or the demi gods, sort of coming down into the hierarchy. Then from there, if we move further down, then we have what we call the Pitra. Pitra are our ancestors. And I think probably like in some of the Native American people and also in the European places, I have seen many people who found their deep connection with the ancestral spirits. People invoke them, people do all sorts of rituals or the spiritual practices to connect with their spirits or their ancestors. I think there is a one Native American, African tribe, every time they go out in the forest for hunt or whatever they do, they invoke all their ancestral spirits to guide them, show them the light, show them the path. In the Sanatan Dharma or in the Hindu culture, we actually dedicate one part of the whole moon, half of the moon cycle or half of the month into the Pitra Arpan, where we invoke our ancestors, we offer food and we offer, different grains, and even people do charity in name of their parents. So you might actually give food to poor people, you might give food to animals or the birds. So there are these simple rituals. Sometimes we do it to bring peace to our spirits of ancestors. So say if I know, like my grandparents had lots of hard time and their spirit may be still stuck into that trauma, I can do certain prayers, I can do some singing, chanting, and offer food or the service, the donation, the charity to different places to send my love or my healing connection to my ancestral spirits. So that is also a big part of the Sanatan Dharma. And you may do those rituals to help the spirit of the ancestors move forward into the next journey. I know there are some mentions of sending the spirits to the heaven, but I'm not really a huge fan of that principle. And I guess you can think of that principle as to invoking the path or the light for our ancestors, so they find a life of wealth and joyfulness and prosperity or abundance. To me, that's what I call heaven, and hell is like when we're being put into really difficult situation or challenge. But again, as if we go back to the very first lesson, as life is a divine opportunity, so that means if you take your life as an opportunity, as a learning lesson, and you start to follow your karma and dharma, then you can potentially transform your life into heaven at any point. So to me, I always think that we actually consciously choose to live either in pain or either in happiness. We can choose to live in an argument or we can choose to live in peace. So what choices we are making and who do we become with or within ourselves, within our friends or families or society, that's the quality we manifest. So through invoking our ancestors, sometimes we ask them to protect us, sometimes we ask them to guide us, share their experience, and sometimes we also offer these to bring peace to their spirits. Then we come down to what we have the sort of Ishta Deva or Ishta Devi. So please remember again in the Pitra Pujan, there is a equal worship or equal offering to your maternal and your paternal ancestors. So it's not that you offering to only your father or your grandfather, or you offering it to the both lineage, the both side. If say like your grandfather does not exist, your grandmother is not alive, then you will offer to your grandmother and your grandfather and you offer that same. So it's again followed in a very equanimous way. It's not like a one or other. Then we come further down. From that is the concept known as Ishta Deva and Ishta Devi. Now, Ishta Deva and Ishta Devi actually is again a liberated way for each one of us to choose a personal aspect of the deity, and that can be a god or a goddess. So, in a typical Hindu family, okay, so say Deepa, I don't know what's your family thing, but Deepa can follow Lord Shiva. Her husband may follow Goddess Durga. Her mom may follow easily Lakshmi, and father may follow Lord Rama. So in same family, say if there are 10 people, each one of us can choose a different quality of the god or the goddess And usually there is no conflict between who do we invoke or what kind of energy or the quality we connect with. And that for that we have the term Ishtadeva or Ishtdevi. So the Ishtadeva is the male aspect, which is the god, and Ishtdevi is the female aspect of the goddess. And Ishta is the personal form or your personal attraction, the form of the god or the goddess you naturally feel drawn to, or you naturally feel following that quality. And that again will go all the way back from the Brahman up to the Ishta Devata or the spirits. Okay, so it's not the one or other. So some people can believe in the spirit, some people can believe in the prana, some people can believe in nothingness, the iti and neti neti. So it does go quite into a very wide spectrum. So choosing your personal identification, your personal relationship or association with any aspect of the divine is again a quality to practice, a quality to manifest. And there is no conflict or there is no hindrance between, the fight between who do you choose to worship or who do you choose to invoke. So we have come down now to the personal identification or your personal relationship with the divine. Now, if I can continue further, I hope I'm not talking too fast, okay? I'm just trying to simplify it as much as I can. At any point, if you feel that there is something missing, please let me know. Then we have what we call the Prakriti worshippers. So the Upasana, Upasana is the one term we use. So there are some people in Sanatan Dharma, they worship the nature itself. So you may worship a tree, you may worship a plant, you may worship a particular animal, like the cows are very much worshipped. Probably you would have heard about how the cow is a holy or the very much protected species across India. And so, we have many rivers, they've been worshipped and they're being, people take a huge devotion or dedication towards our river, like the river Ganga. People will call Ma Ganga or the Mate Gange. So there are references. Many mountains you will see the Indian people worshipping, and actually, I would say still in our Sanatan Dharma, there are some trees they have been protected for millions of years. Okay, and I'm saying millions because I don't know exact number when these wisdom would have started. Okay, it might be 10-20,000 years old, or it might be longer. But ever since this wisdom of the Vedas, the Sanatan wisdom came to existence, when these old ancient rishis realized, so like we have the people tree, which is the people and bargad, so they are the banyan group of trees. See, these trees, they can live for thousands and thousands of years. So when these ancient rishis realize how amazing that tree is, so then to protect that tree, a spiritual context was associated with the tree. Now, I really honestly, like, I don't know what's the situation now, but when I was in India, and probably now because of the new system of the highways and the motorways and stuff, they have to change it. But back then, if you are making a road, okay, and there is a banyan tree, then your road will circle around that tree instead of pulling that tree out and killing or destroying that tree. If a sapling of one of those trees will start to grow in your farm, you would not kill it. You may take that plant out and plant it somewhere in the forest or somewhere in a more auspicious place that it can last. And I think that one of the most oldest tree now, the carbon dating, people are saying it's at least a good 3,000 plus years old, and it's in near Kolkata in Bengal, and it is actually 2.74 hectare in the square meter. So that's how large. Now I think 2.74 acres. So one tree expanded out, so it's almost like the whole village can shelter or take a refuge under that tree. So you will see that many trees were protected, or people worship them, people invoke them and make a connection with the nature, many rivers and many mountains because of the quality of the herbs and minerals they provide us. So we also have an abundant amount of worshipping or invoking, in tuning and attuning the quality of the nature. People worship rain, people worship clouds, people worship wind, people worship, the sun, people worship the moon. So all these qualities which we live, you can think of this is like a one way to express our gratitude, isn't it? Or saying thank you for all that we have in life. Now, I know it's very interesting that ever since we have the Western religion came to India, they really made us feel like what nonsense we're living in. But now the Western culture is realizing how much important it is to protect the mountains, the trees, the rivers. Well, in the ancient Sanatan Dharma, the Vedic system, it was already there. So we come all the way down to also worshipping or invoking the nature itself. So in Sanatan Dharma, we have the days even where people will go and offer the food to the ants, the days where people offer the food to the crows, days where people offer the food to the cows or the dogs or the cats. So it's really a beautiful way, I believe, when we come down to the nature worshipping, is to connect or to in tune or attune with the qualities of the divine. And in that, of course, again, if you look at it, if you are connecting to the nature, then the nature have the both qualities, isn't it? The male and the female qualities. So again, that shows us this sense of equanimity or a beautiful balance into the quality of the connection with the divine. Now, in this step, I guess the next step that we want to learn is the process of the Upasana, we call it. How do we connect with these qualities of the divine? I really like the word Upasana, which is sort of doing, you can call it as simple as like doing your rituals, doing your mantra chanting, doing your connection. And my favorite translation of the Upasana is how do I get closer and closer to the divine, or whatever aspect of the divine quality I believe in, or the divine quality I offer or I feel connect to. Now, the very first one is the offering or faith or our Shraddha, which is like, you offer your liking, you offer your praise to the divine. I think in the Christianity, that is quite a lot, isn't it? We praise the divine, we praise the Lord. So you express your qualities through your voice, through your heart, through your practice to that aspect of the divine. So people who worship a tree, then they will tie a thread to the tree, they will may offer some water, they may offer some other things, to that tree or to the roots to say, thank you for being and thank you for blessing us. If you worship, let's say, Lord Ganesh, then you might offer some sweets, you may offer some water, you may offer some milk, you may also offer some flowers. Sometimes you offer some money as a donation to that quality of aspect to keep those places running, isn't it? Like sometimes, like, if I go to, every time I go to Fatima, I always put a bit of money in the charity box. If I go to any temple, you put a little bit of money in the temple, in the charity box, because there is a need for the financial sustenance for those places to keep going. I quite really enjoyed actually with my group. I think, Shiv is here and Deepa, like everywhere we went, we always made a collective donation. So it's not that you are showing off that I have got money in my pocket. It's offering the money, not to, if you think like, oh, offer the money in the Shiva temple, that's like going to Lord Shiva. No, it is to sustain that place to exist, sustain somebody to do all the rituals and to follow those qualities. So hopefully it will be there for many generations yet to come. Okay, so please remember, whenever you make the donation, it's not that you have given the money to Krishna or Ganesh or Jesus, if you're doing it in Fatima, or the money goes into the quality of the place, the purpose, and the vibration, to maintain that vibration, to maintain that integrity, to maintain that consciousness of that area. So very first step is your faith. And how you offer it? By expressing your love, affects you're talking about, or singing and chanting, thinking, contemplating, meditating on the quality, isn't it? It's a little bit like, if I have faith in any one of you, really the best way I can express my faith is by giving a nice positive compliment. And if I feel I can express a little bit more, maybe bringing a flower, bringing a gift. So the second principle then is what we call the arpan, which is our offering. Now, I really love the Krishna says in your arpan, in your offering, it can be as simple as a leaf, a flower, a water, or the few grains. Now, in the ancient system, the arpan of the grains would be given out to the birds or to the animals. Your flower, your fruit, your water can be offered to the statue. Like you will always see people pouring water on the Shivlingam. Some of the statues, when they are marble, people offer water to give them a wash, to give them a bath. And then you offer the flower, the fruit, the prasadam, or the fruit, whatever you take, into that offering. Then we have the jyoti, which is lighting a lamp or lighting a candle. So bringing light, or bringing that sort of, the bliss into the life by lighting a candle. Offering of any lighting incense stick is again another really beautiful way. Now think of these are not only just the practice to as a mysticism. These are actually also the metaphorical practices of moving from that me little thing into the offering person, giving and letting go and sharing whatever we can afford to give. So we have the arpan, then we have the jyoti, or lighting a lamp, lighting a candle, lighting some incenses. That moves us to the japa. So reciting a mantra, or meditating on that quality of the divine, or again praising, which is another beautiful part of the bhakti. In typically in Sanatan Dharma, there will be this particular mantras for each of the quality of the god or the goddess. Like we have Om Namah Shivaya, that's for Lord Shiva. Om Namo Durgaya. So connecting with the quality of the goddess Durga. Om Ganganapataye Nama, reciting the quality of Lord Ganesh. And then you can also sing the similar sort of qualities of all different gods and goddesses. So sometimes we recite or chant the mantra, sometimes we may sing a bhajan to praise the quality of that aspect of the god and goddesses. So the mantra japa, or reciting, singing a song, singing a mantra. The next quality of upasana is seva. So the seva is the quality of service. Now, the simplest seva can be, say if you are in a temple, you sweep the floor, you clean the statues, give them a bath, and decorate them with the flowers. But also, you may offer your seva, again, feed poor people or feed animals, and doing other rituals. So, as we believe, by making offering to the life that needs your help, you connect with the divine quality through that. So the seva becomes another beautiful quality of upasana. A regular pranayam to purify your energy, your qualitative being. Typically in the upasana, the pranayam that we follow in a ritualistic system of Sanatan Dharma is the Nadi Sodhan pranayam. The nerve or the energy cleanser. And I will share the recording of the pranayam probably sometime Tuesday after midday, and just for you all to follow that. So a purification of your energy, or purification of your vitality. upvas, which is fasting. It's like different gods and goddesses. Of course, they have a particular day, but you can also choose a day that is suitable or appropriate for you. Say if some of you have a full weekend off, then maybe you do Saturday fasting or Sunday fasting. Some of you have the days off in the middle of the week. So a typical fasting is also a big part of giving that day to offering your time, your energy, your resting to that one quality of the divine. So typically, like people who follow Lord Shiva, they have the Monday as the fasting day. People who follow Hanuman or Lord Rama, the Tuesday is their day. People who follow Guru, then they do the Thursday. People who follow goddess like Sakti or Lakshmi, their Friday is their day. People who follow the more sort of dynamic form of Shiva, then Saturday is the day, and then so each of the day is used to invoke or to connect with the different qualities or the aspects of the divine. So the fasting is also the part of the Upasana, which then leads us into also the Samyama, which is the meditation. You may sit by the statue or you may sit by the quality of that divine, and you invoke those qualities deep in your meditation and allow yourself to be absorbed or surrender into that quality. In the Arpan, then we also have certain kriyas and prakriyas which we can again offer to the divine, which are known as the prana kriyas. I think we practice few of them in one of the temple. I still need to record them. I don't think we recorded them when we were together, did we? But I think once I'm back in Wales or back in Portugal in next few days, I will record some of those ritualistic. Sort of think of those are the adapted variations of the Surya Namaskars or the Prana Kriyas, and through which then people will do a little bit of the physical kriya, physical movement with the breath and the vibration, the sound, to again connect with the divine within our physical, mental, and our pranic body. So these are really some of the very simple and a very personal ways to connect with the divine or whatever aspect of the quality you invoke or you connect with. And and it's amazing to see this abundant temples, abundant of these places in ancient time. I must say that temples were not only the place of the worship. This is again, I'm not sure when we lost that original tradition. The temples were part of an ashram system. So there would be a school, what we call the ancient school of the Sanatan Dharma. So the part of the temple, you will have a residential school known as Gurukula, where students will come and live, and they will have the morning hatha yoga, prayer and singing, chanting, live there, learning all the scriptures, including the Sanskrit language, and also take part in all the rituals in the temple as part of the ceremonies. So the temples were more of the education place along with the spiritual sanctuary or the spiritual place for people to connect or attune with the worshipping rituals. But they both were always run together. I think probably in the last few hundred years, there was definitely, even still in our political system, it's very interesting. Honestly, it's very painful to know what we have done to the country where we are 70% plus are actually the Sanatan or the Hindus, and those are the only one don't have right to educate. So in schools and stuff, you cannot educate people into Sanatan Dharma and all that. They sort of made it like some kind of secular idea, this secular thing. And I have found it quite challenging. And I think what I feel at the moment, now and then, probably in a year or two, I'm going to leave all the baggage behind and start from somewhere from the north of the India, go to the top and go down to the south and walk around the whole country for a couple of years and share these original teachings and maybe find a way to connect also the Indian people itself with these beautiful teachings. So the temple, the place of the worship and the place of education, they were simultaneously aligned. So it wasn't like even if you want to become a warrior and learn the archery, still that invoking different qualities of the gods and goddesses, the mantra, these rituals, they were a very big part of our learning. And I think this is something probably only in the last 2 or 3 years I'm being realized. Some reason I also believed for 8, 9 years that yoga is nothing to do with the Hinduism as a faith or system, but actually yoga is the part and parcel. It's like a one chapter of the big picture of the Sanatan Dharma. And the minute you take this spiritual connection or its roots connected with the Adhyatm, spirituality or the Sanatan Dharma, I believe a non-secular yoga is just a keep fit exercise. Secular yoga is a keep fit exercise, taking it away from its roots. A keep fit pranayam, again, taking it away from its roots or the teachings. Now, I also want to make sure that if you follow yoga or Sanatan Dharma, it doesn't mean that you need to become a Hindu. Okay, there are two different things. Because this is the quality of the Sanatan Dharma is to become better in whatever you believe in. Okay, so you say if you worship Jesus, then you use these aspects and find your better connection with the quality of Jesus, find a better quality of the Allah or whichever aspect of the divine we worship or we invoke. But I definitely have begun to open up to experience that yoga is not secular practice. It is a practice, it is a part of believing in the qualities of the divine from the Ishta Devata, from the spirits into the gods and goddesses. Then you move into Paramatman, then you move into Iswara, and then finally we transcend into the Brahman. And one of the beautiful mantra, Om Jaya Shiva Om Kara, Om Har Shiva Om Kara, Brahma Vishnu Sada Shiva, Ardhangiridhara. So here we are invoking that Om is the sound or the vibration of the universe, and even the Brahma and Vishnu and the Shiva, these are the manifest quality of the Brahman, the Pranava, the Om itself. So from the many gods, there is a liberation in whatever quality of the god or goddess you follow into. But ultimately, they all will go back into the source, into the roots, which is the Brahman. And coming down all the way to our spirits, our ancestors, is a quality that you can connect with or within the divine where your mind finds its easiest way to connect. So if some of you find easy to connect with the spirits of your grandparents or your grandparents, that's the one way to begin your journey. Some of you may find it's easy to connect with the aspect of the god or goddess in form of the statue or the picture. That's the way to begin. Some of us can connect with the abstract idea or the absolute idea. You connect with that. And so there is this beautifully dynamically intertwined invoking or connection to the divine between the male and the female, but also from the supreme to the manifest quality, and then from the manifest to the supreme quality. So you can think of this as a journey that takes us away from our ego, our pain, our suffering, or little boxed thing into the absolute being or the absolute consciousness. And this is, I think, where I'm happy to sort of leave into this topic. I think I will take a pause and see if there are some questions, and maybe some of you wish to share some of your own personal understanding, as we got a good 10 minutes still there. But I hope I have given you all a bit of insight to understand this this multi-dimensional concept. Yes, I think I can see Deepa wants to start. Go for it.
I just wanted some clarity regarding spirits. You mentioned that the gurus which get enlightened and they are in the astral space, right? And
Yes.
then you mentioned about they getting manifested in the form of in the dream or in the form of a man, woman, or an animal. So I was a little confused because I thought a person who gets enlightened, this that they don't come into that cycle of that what do you call the karma cycle. They don't get again manifested. Their soul is like liberated. So can you explain that?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you, Deepa. So I think when I said that these gurus can manifest in different qualities, I don't mean they're taking birth to come and talk to you. They can take a vehicle or an instrument through which they can communicate to us. So a guru can communicate, these astral gurus can communicate to you in your meditation, in your transcendental states like yoga nidra. But sometimes they need to come and communicate us into our human cognitive field. And in that, they may take a vehicle or choose a body of animal, choose a body of you and me. This is why when we start the sessions, we Tat Paramparayaya Vedmahe Jnana. So that means we are invoking those guru spirits, and hopefully they can manifest through us and express the wisdom through the voice of that person. So when I say manifest, I don't mean they're going to take birth for us, okay? They take a vehicle or they choose an appropriate quality so they can be expressed for our cognitive human experience. I hope that makes sense. Yes, Joanna, please.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking that I wanted to say so much, but then couldn't really express it. No, I just wanted to comment that it it's you systematize it in such a beautiful way, something that is so sometimes so hard to reach or gets everything thrown into the same box or and yeah, to start to understand and connect respectfully with each of these realms for me, because it's also something that is opening up so clearly but without a structure of wisdom. uh, it can get confusing, so it was very soothing, particularly personally for me today, to okay, to know how it works and to comment that this last thing that you said, that temples were always part of the ashram life, and how these two things are together, worship and teaching and learning. I wish and I hope that somehow in the West, but even in India, as you said, right? Because you also feel like this is kind of fragmented. I wonder how we can creatively bring these two things together. Um, I
Well,
don't
I
know.
have started planting the seeds for that in Portugal, Joanna, and I promise
Yeah.
if when you come back next, you will see some huge changes. So I already made a little Shakti temple for the
Mhm.
goddesses, and we're going to start making temples for like different gods and different qualities. And so it's finding a way to reconnect with these auspicious qualities. So yes, we are manifesting that for sure in Portugal. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've got that Sanatan Dharma home, and I
Yes.
see that happening, and it's moving very fast. And
Yeah.
yeah, so probably I think even in my teachings there will be lots of changes that you will see as we work on it. I think definitely from 2008 for like 10, 12 years or a bit longer that I was trying to stay away from certain parts. But last few years, my own, I think when you go into the deeper experiences, you realize that splitting apart the yoga and its spirituality, which is rooted into the Sanatan Dharma, it's just demeaning it. To me, I would say rather go to the Pilates class or go to a breathing exercise practice or go to a music night or something and just do the fitness training and stuff is better than separating yoga and the Sanatan Dharma. They are like this. It's just not possible. And if any one of us seek for the deepest healing, and then we need to put two together. And I'm not saying that if you follow yoga, you need to follow the one aspect that I'm talking about. Probably I will definitely spend at least one lesson to talk about my experience, my understanding of the Jesus and his teachings to see how I also connect with that. I know with the teachings of the Allah and that so far I have not practiced or I've never felt drawn to it. So I definitely am not the right person to talk about it. But with the Jesus, I have so much love and I have some amazing experiences to talk on that. So you can connect with the divine in however you feel, but you cannot separate the two together. That is where I am. And
I know, and it's not easy uh, to integrate it in a way that doesn't scare in a first contact, in one of the first few contacts with yoga. I say that it's possible just to hear you speak. I think if someone would have sat here, I was thinking about this. What if some of my dear friends and family that don't practice yoga would sit down with Nyandev, and what could they absorb? And I think they could absorb a lot, despite not having the asana and the pranayama and this foundational part. But this, I'm not sure. You are the right person to say, Nyandev. I don't
no,
know.
I think if people are open to understand themselves and connect with the spirituality, then yes, asana, pranayam is not really a very basic thing. Not lots of people maybe don't need it. They can just connect with the higher self through the other paths or the other aspect of life itself.
Yeah.
And I think, Joanna, it's more of our own personal fear. Like what kept me secular in my yoga teachings for 15, 20 years, it was my fear to lose the business. Okay, I'm talking
Yeah.
really in as blunt as it is possible.
No.
Fear to lose the business, fear to lose people. And then
Student.
suddenly I realized actually I'm messing up myself up. I'm messing what I have learned. I'm messing up what I understood. So to me now I have come to where either people come for the whole thing. So
Yeah.
there is no separation. And same for you all really, when you start to share this, your understanding of these teachings to people, it doesn't matter what path they follow.
Mhm.
Once you let go of your own fear, how people are going to judge, would people like you or dislike you? It's going to be cool because if people don't like us, they don't follow us. If people like us, they follow us, and then you allow your own circle to build. And one of my best experience with my residential group in India for a few weeks was it doesn't matter how much chaos out in the world, we can create a beautiful bubble and we can live a really beautiful spiritual journey, regardless of what's happening outside our room, what's happening outside our practice space. And I think it is that quality, if you connect with the divine, the higher self, you can create your own beautiful space. So letting go of the fear and trusting that there is a greater truth, there is a greater aspect of the divine, then you will find yourself. This is what I mean, like spirits, these gurus, these teachings will manifest somehow. And in the last year or so, once I started to go deep into this path, I'm finding amazed like how many books I have been given by people from nowhere. Honestly, like somebody, I was walking in the streets a couple of days ago in when I'm with my parents and there was a party going on, and this monk sort of turns up in one of the in part of the ceremony, and as he walks past, he just hands me this book, and I'm like, okay, why me? And he's just like, oh, you're the one need it. You're the vehicle. You need to just study it and take it forward. So that's why I mean, like these spirits, this wisdom, you will be surprised how it can manifest in our life.
Yeah.
So the faith, the trust, and the connection, and my best advice for tonight for you all, or it's only afternoon for you all, okay, only night for me and Deepa here. Try to connect with you, even if you believe in your personal self as a spirit, try to connect it with the love, with affection, with the attitude of surrendering. I mean, surrendering of the ego or the individuality, and let that abundance to manifest in you. Everything we are looking into, talking, will make sense and will guide you in that journey. And to conclude, the I and the divine two cannot exist together. But the love and the divine can exist together. We and the divine can exist together. So all we need to do is move from that I, the individuality, into the collective being. Connect. And if I can connect with you, I can connect. I already got connection with the divine. If my ego is trying to teach and share, then I'm sorry, there is a duality, there is a boundary between the I and the you. Okay, I think probably that's enough unless somebody got something really important to say, please. Otherwise, we will close for tonight. I know lots to contemplate. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Namaste, everyone. Good night. See you all for the next lesson. Bye bye.